Hi everybody, my name is Kaylee and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Okay everybody, welcome to Storytime Smash Sunday. If you guys don't know what that is, it is where I get a bunch of story times that are not long enough for a full YouTube story time, but they're too long for a TikTok story time, and I mash them all into one video. But before we get into today's story times, I am going to address a few things real quick. So a lot of you have been asking how you send in your anonymous story times, and I'm guessing that I have some new subscribers here. So I'm going to be posting a new how to submit your story time, or it's already posted because I'm filming this video very early in the week. But what you're going to do is you're just going to go down to the description and you are going to click on the video that says how to submit your anonymous story time, and you can go watch that and I'll show you, and I'll have the link in the description there. Or you can just go down to the link in the description on my newest video. Always go to the newest video. Do not go to old videos and try to submit your story time, because I cannot promise you that that link is going to work. But yeah, you go there and then you just fill out the submission story time thing, and bam, it's in a submission, and I'll go through and I'll read your guys' story times. Also, another thing, within the next upcoming weeks, if I'm a little bit off with the posting schedule, it's because I have family coming into town. I have my grandma coming in and I have my sister coming in, and I've never had family come and visit me down here, so I'm like low-key stressed but excited. I don't know. Also, before we get into today's story times, I would just like to say I am sending all my prayers to all of the people that are being affected by the terrible events going on in the world today. By the way guys, if I seem super jittery today, it's because I drank a cup of coffee. I'm probably gonna go make another cup of coffee, and then I took my ADHD meds, and I literally feel like a human with the zoomies right now, literally. So if I'm talking fast and I just seem like I'm rambling, that is why. But other than that, I'm going to bring you guys up close. There we go. By the way guys, okay, so I've been on like a little nail health journey because my nail beds are literally garbage, like they're done. I've been getting my nails done for so long that it's like, I don't think I've went like a week without getting my nails done since probably like a year and a half or 2 years ago. So I'm trying to like nurse my nails back to health, and I've been using these Glamnetics glue-on nails, and they're actually so good guys. These have been on for like 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and one of them fell off, I want to say like 3 days after I put it on, but I feel like that's because I didn't nail prep right. But y'all, I'm also a nail biter, which is pretty bad, but like, so that's why I always have to have something on my nails. I can't just like go without having anything on my nails, or else I will bite them completely off, which is so embarrassing, but it's like an anxiety tick of mine. But yeah, if you guys have like the same problem, or you just want to try like some press-on nails that are super good, invest in the Glamnetic nails. Like literally, these are so freaking good. And this isn't an ad, by the way, but yeah. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, I'm going to do my quick usual little rundown for those of you who might be new here. For most of the video, I will be looking in this direction because my mirror's over here and I would like to see what I'm doing. I do tell these story times in a first person point of view, so if you don't like that, then you can leave.
There's the door. There's the door, bitch!
And these story times are sent in by anonymous people. Now, let's get into today's story times. Okay, so story time about the show house. So a little background information, I worked for police dispatch in a decently sized city. Actually, one of the 15 biggest cities in the US for like over a decade. And this story time happened probably between 2004 and 2008. So the one day I am sitting in dispatch working with my colleagues, and there are about 14 of us, when I hear a crazy radio transmission from the district next to mine. Now, it was on the secondary channel that came through the speakers at our desk, and the main primary channels were in our ears, you know, through our headsets, which I think that means that the call that came in was only between the officer and the radio person, and it wasn't called out to all of the officers. So anyways, this call comes through and they're like, I'm 810, which means done. From here, I'm never going back to that house. And then they're also like, you can't make me. And if the sergeant has something to say about it, I'll take the suspension. I don't care. I will not go back there. So me being nosy, of course, I'm like, yo, what was that all about? And the operator pretty much just says the officer went to go and check out an abandoned house on the main street in a high end of town, aka like, I'm guessing a rich area. Anyways, he saw a guy walk into the house and he knew no one lived there, so he followed him in there to try and get him out. But what this officer did not expect was to watch this guy vanish as he walked up the fucking stairs And he also did not expect to get physically tossed out of the house by something he couldn't see.
Go home and get the gun. Damn! Go home! Run!
So the officer was understandably freaked the fuck out. You know what? I said it in my last video. I don't know which last video, but it was some last video, and I'll say it again. I will not fucking argue with something I cannot see. If you want me out the house, I'm going out the house. Thank you. Don't gotta tell me twice. Anyways. But yeah, like I said, he was understandably freaked the fuck out. So me continuing to be nosy as fuck, because bitch, we love the tea. I got the address from the radio operator, and I do a little bit of ghost hunting in my spare time and do occasional house blessings if I need to. So I was curious to see how this was gonna go, because since I was going to that house, I was going there. Like, what do I look like, a pussy? No. Anyway, so I enlisted a district car to come with me, because while I'm good to go on and deal with like the spookier side of shit, having somebody who has a gun coming with me inside of an abandoned building was just good planning. I'm not gonna lie. In my personal opinion, what is a gun gonna do to something you cannot see? I just want to know. Yeah, like, I don't know what a gun's gonna do to the person who just disappears walking through walls and shit.
At what point does this make any sense? At what point?
It doesn't make it.
At what point?
But hey, that's just me. That is just me. Okay, let's get back to the story. Anyways, so, you know, I head over there and I meet them directly after work. And for a house that's haunted, this house was stunning on the outside. It was gothic. There were stone gargoyles perched on both sides of the fence, or the gate, before you would enter the property. By the way, this is what gargoyles look like. And it had an elaborate stone facade. If you guys don't know what facade means, it pretty much means fake. Like something or someone is putting on like a front, or, you know, putting on a show. And then, you know, there was a fountain in the middle of the driveway creating a roundabout, kind of looking like this. To be honest, all this place was missing was a thunderstorm, in terms of hitting like all the spooky traditional, like that checklist, you know, thunderstorms, creepy, gothic, all that creepy shit. So fast forward, the other officers arrive, and then we all head inside. And I want to mention that the doors were open. Well, one of the doors, because there were two double doors, and then there was a large oval where glass should be for like the little window. But walking into this mansion, it was like stepping back in time. There was black and white marble flooring, crystal doorknobs, hanging chandeliers with cobwebs all over them. You could definitely tell that when this house was still a home, like, it must have been beautiful. And it was clear that it's been a long time since this house was a home because of all of the dust and cobwebs, broken windows. But what was weird was the lack of graffiti or signs of like human activity in the house. Because even though that I said, you know, it must have been a while since anybody's lived here, normally in abandoned buildings, especially ones that have been abandoned for a long ass time, there's usually writing on the walls and cigarette butts everywhere, leftover trash and waste, but there was no sign of squatters or anything like that in this house.
This is nice. It don't smell like roaches in here or nothing.
So, you know, I do my normal routine whenever I'm dealing with this sort of situation. I announce myself to the spirits, explain why I'm there, and what I wanted from them. Like, you know, just some pictures if they wanted, and a conversation if they'd allow it, but nothing meant to upset or harm them. And for me, I go into these situations as respectful as possible, knowing that any likely spirits we encounter were at some point human and they deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. The cop with me was skeptical, but I told him to just keep that shit to himself. And I tend to ghost hunt by feel because I'm super sensitive to like paranormal stuff like this, and I can generally tell where spirits are, and I can also usually tell some things about them. And this is a normal thing in my family. Like, we're all super, I would say, like, in touch with the other side, if that makes sense. So I had soon realized that the bottom floor felt normal and unbothered. I figured we should go where my spidey senses were telling me to go, and that was upstairs. Thankfully, the other officer did not talk too much shit when I phrased it literally just like that. you know, making the suggestion that, you know, my spidey senses wanted us to go upstairs. Anyway, so he takes the lead and we go upstairs, and as we're walking up the stairs, the air just seems to get heavier. And by that, I mean, like, you know where you go somewhere and you get like a strong vibe like in the air, you know? I just felt like a presence was upstairs. By the way, if this does not look like my shade, I'm trying out some new makeup right now. So if this look turns out like shit, I don't know. Yeah, it's just gonna look like shit. And the upstairs was just as beautiful as the downstairs. It had 7 bedrooms and the doors were all open. And I went into each room without any problems. And we finally get into the hallway that leads to the main bedroom at the back of the house. And almost immediately, my body just freezes up. And as I'm looking down this hallway, all I can think is I'm surprised that the walls are not covered in blood. Like, the vibe that I got there, it felt like there should have been blood everywhere down that darkened hallway. But there wasn't, of course. It just felt very evil, and something was very angry almost, because I didn't hear somebody say get out or anything so dramatic. But when I tell you that my body froze up, it went from frozen to get the fuck out of this house now. That was the vibe. And I listened. I told the officer as calmly as I could, we're no longer welcome, we should leave now. And as I'm dragging these officers down the stairs by their arms, thankfully they didn't argue with me. They were on board. They were like, all right, let's get the fuck out of here. So, you know, we get outside and we're standing out by our cars smoking. And one of the officers was like, I've never in my life felt like a house was watching me before. This shit is creepy as fuck. Mind you, this officer, he's been doing this shit for a while. This is not no rookie cop or anything, but hearing this from him validated the way that I was fucking feeling, because sis, this house gave off such a threatening and just dangerous vibe. It was low-key fucked. So after we left the house that night, I did a little ritual cleansing of myself and the officers and our cars. I just did not want to take any fucking chances. Like, I know it's minimalistic, but shit, it works. Anyway, so later on, I decide that I'm going to go to the county tax office to find out more about who owned this property, because I'm thinking there has to be some information about something that happened in this fucking house. Like, a house doesn't have that vibe for no reason. But sadly, all I could find was the last owner had it until probably about the 1980s or 90s, and it was a decorator show house in the mid-80s. And if you don't know what a decorator or show house is, it's a residential house that becomes public for public events. And they're typically hosted by businesses and shit like that. And, you know, they'll have a decorator come in and decorate the house for these showings or whatever the fuck. There were no newspaper articles, no reports of death or tragic events that may have happened in this house. It was disappointing, low-key. I mean, I still stand by the fact that I think some fucked shit happened in that house. But, you know. So fast forward a couple months, I would drive past this house regularly and it remained abandoned and untouched, but I just could not get this place out of my head for some reason, like for the life of me. So what do I end up doing? I end up going back there with my mom.
Yeah, double homicide.
Because I had told her about the place, she was curious about it, and she agreed that it was really beautiful inside, so she wanted to see it. So we get to the front door and it's closed and locked. And it seemed like somebody had replaced the glass in the window or something. Like, I distinctly remember looking at that glass in the door. Like I said, it's a massive oval in the middle of these 2 huge double doors, and thinking to myself, wow, someone must have fixed the glass. Anyway, so I'm a little bit bummed out. I'm not completely disappointed. We debate whether we should go inside or not, but as we're standing there talking, something weird happens. We're in the middle of our conversation and both of our attention is just drawn to the foyer just behind the front door. That pretty much just means like the foyer is like a space when you enter the house. And it's at that moment that we realize the front door, which had been locked, no longer had glass in it. Like, we were both there, we both saw the glass, we both saw the doors were closed, they were locked. And all of a sudden, the house seemed to offer us, like, entry.
No, 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 no!
almost like we were invited in. There was nothing in the foyer, but for whatever reason, it seemed like a bad idea to look away from it. And when I tell you I have never felt a more dangerous response in my life, and when I mean like dangerous response, I mean like the fucking house inviting us in, like it was not a friendly welcome. You could tell it was not a friendly fucking welcome. It seemed like a come in and see what happens type of vibe. So I asked my mom, I'm like, Ma, that had glass in it, right? And she just nods her head, not even looking away from the foyer area. And then she goes, yeah, it did. And we should go now. Sis didn't have to tell me twice. Like mentally, my ass was already walking back to the car. So yeah, we both fucking speed walk to the car. And when we get in, we drive to the Steak and Shake that's down the street. We didn't speak a word until we got into the parking lot. We get in the car. We didn't say a fucking word to each other the whole drive. We went to the Steak and Shake down the street, got our milkshakes, and then Ma looked me dead in the face and she said, you're not going back there. There is something very wrong with that place. And so I didn't. I was like, all right, like, you don't gotta tell me twice, for real. Now, I ended up keeping track of this old place over time, watching as it would go on the market, get sold, only to go back on the market a month later, several times before selling a few years ago. It took like 7 years of renovations to get this house sold. I'm pretty sure probably because they couldn't keep a work crew there. Anyway, so I've been like low-key tempted to go and ask the family who's currently living there now if they've had any unusual experiences with the house. But I know in my heart that I should leave it alone. Okay, everybody, that is the end of storytime number 1. Now on to storytime number 2 and my 3rd cup of coffee. You guys have no idea how many times I've got up to pee within the past like 30 minutes. Okay, so I didn't really know what to title this one, but we're gonna call it Pop-Up Ghosts. Okay, so story time about the pop-up ghosts. So a little background information. We are the second owners of our 1960s house. Originally, we thought the man that we had bought it from was an elderly bachelor who had just moved on to an assisted living home. Which then again felt a little bit odd because my husband and I both felt a presence in this house. Now this was a little bit more on brand for myself, but my husband on the other hand, not so much. He's definitely connected and sensitive to like paranormal stuff, but he leans more towards logic and reason. Anyways, that being said, we were joking about the man that we had bought it from, you know, saying that he had passed away and would come back to the house because we kept seeing people at night. And our home has a lot of windows and angles, and the angles of our house make it so that way you can see out of the back glass door and across the back porch, and you can also see from that glass door into the other windows that are along the living room. Pretty confusing. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, when I would get up at night to tend to the baby, I would automatically just look through the back door to the porch and the yard below our deck, where we also have some chairs facing out towards the creek in the backyard as well. My husband, he just automatically looks from the sliding glass door to the windows that are going into the living room. One day, I made the mistake of telling him, this is gonna sound creepy, but at night when I get up with Forrest, aka our son, I always think I see a person standing at the chairs looking out towards the creek. And I was like, you know, it might just be how you set the chairs up or something. And he responds in a surprisingly nonchalant way. Oh yeah, I see people all over this house at night, like through every window.
You better wear your bulletproof vest all day. Oh, motherfucker! Yeah.
And my jaw drops and I'm like, excuse me, people? Like, plural, people. Like I said, our house has a lot of fucking windows. And in this space that we think was an office originally, there are 3 floor-to-ceiling windows, which we now use as our son's playroom. So according to my husband, he sees people in the playroom, sitting on our sofas, in the living room and people standing in the yard, etc. Like, sir, why would you not tell me this? Maybe he didn't tell me because he thought that it would scare me, but like, sis, I think this is something that we should communicate about, okay? Okay. Because either you're seeing fucking ghosts or you're schizophrenic or having delusions. Something, okay? Okay. So after living there for the past 6 months, we've now come to the conclusion that we get some ghosts that pop up here and there. Now, our house has a ton of stone on it. The driveway is stone, you know, in the little circles. And the creek in our backyard is spring fed, which I'm pretty sure just means that it's spring water running through the creek. But anyways, we have this theory that it's like a portal for these spirits. But there's one spirit that we see a lot. Now, remember in the beginning where I mentioned that we thought the original owner was some bachelor? Well, we met some of the neighbors who lived in the neighborhood for a long time, relatively, and they gave us a little bit of history about the neighborhood, specifically our house. So there was this little boy who we're gonna call Carter, and Carter had unalived himself in that house, and sadly his mom and dad ended up divorcing. Usually after tragedies like that, it's very hard for any couple to get through that together. Anyways, we're not going to dwell on that because I'm not going to sit here and try to entertain you guys with that horrible tragedy, but it's necessary background information, okay? Now, in the same week that we found out about this, my husband found a pack of old photos in the garage, and they were pictures of this little boy Carter when he was in this 4th grade play, and my husband asked what we should do with them, and I'm like, what do you mean, what should we do with them? Put them back where you fucking found them, and stop touching shit. The fuck? But another strange thing, we realized that my son's room was also Carter's room when he was a little boy. And most of the paranormal things that would happen were mainly in my son's room. Which, funny thing, in my son's room, when we were removing the paint and stuff, we were confused as to why a bachelor would pick a baby blue color for the walls. Makes a lot more sense now that we know there was a family living here. Anyway, so, like I said, most of the paranormal shit would happen in my son's room. Almost nightly, we would see little flashing lights, which low-key reminded me of fireflies. Or weirdly enough, you would feel little puffs of air on your legs that made no sense at all because of the vent and pattern of air circulation in the room. And there's this light over my son's changing table that when it's on, he's smiling and giggling. He'll even wave to it and like start talking to it. And he doesn't do that with any other light in the house. So fast forward, after a trip I had taken to Missouri, I was putting my son down for a nap, literally the day that we got home, and next to the crib, at the other end of it, like I was standing on one side of the crib and this is on the complete opposite side, I saw this tall rectangular shape of mist that just appeared and then disappeared within like 5 seconds.
Oh my God, what is that? Oh my God, what is that?
And it was about as tall as me, maybe a little bit taller. So I walk into the hallway, I put my hands on the wall, and I say, I've missed you so much. And to my surprise, I got 2 little knocks in like response to me saying that. Like I could even feel the vibrations from the knocks on my hands coming from the wall. Well, last week I was putting my son down for a nap, and I had his door cracked open with some light coming in to the hallway from his room. And on the wall across from his door, I saw a full shadow of a grown man just walking before it disappeared. I'm not gonna lie, y'all, if that was me, I really would check myself into a mental hospital because I would not want to accept the fact that there might be ghosts in my house. I would just want to accept the fact that I was fucking delusional and crazy. Like, put me on some meds, for real. Anyways, back to the story. My husband even said that he avoids a certain bathroom downstairs because he'll hear water running and he just feels like that little boy Carter is in there. There are a few other experience that happens so regularly that we're not even really fazed by them anymore. But I will say this, I never feel afraid, although I can sometimes feel him in the nursery, and I will tell him not to scare me because I'm too tired. If anything, at this point, he feels like a member of the family, and we're talking about the little boy Carter. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that our family pretty much mirrors his. You know, our child is a baby boy, and his nursery is in the same exact room. That was his childhood bedroom. And ultimately, I hope that we can remind him of happy times that he had with his family and make him feel more at peace. Okay, everybody, that is the end of story time number 2. You know, I'm not gonna lie, that story was kind of cute, you know? It's sad what happened to the little boy Carter, but at the same time, if that is him in that house, I feel like that does make him feel a little bit, you know, at peace. It's a very warming story. I mean, I still would definitely check myself into a mental hospital because, like I said, I don't fuck with that shit. Like, I used to be super into paranormal shit, but now as an adult, I have enough fucking problems in my life. I don't need something that I can't see on that list as well. Fuck no. Anyways, on to story time number 3. Okay, so story time about the manor. Now, I'm going to start this off by saying my husband and I are not sensitive to supernatural shit, okay? And both of us are on the skeptic end of things. So a few years ago, my father-in-law decided that rather, instead of gathering the family for the usual backyard barbecue, he wanted to go on a beach weekend to celebrate Father's Day. And as it happened, his brother owned a condo in a popular beach town about an hour away. So, you know, so far so good. The plan was for my father-in-law and most of the family to go out on Friday evening, and my husband and I would just join everyone on Sunday and then stay until Monday. So a bit of backstory. This condo was in an old converted luxury hotel called the Manor. It was originally built back in the 1920s and was supposedly some sort of local landmark. And it was this enormous palace sitting on top of a hill overlooking the ocean with a bunch of tennis courts and tea rooms. Unfortunately though, this place had a rocky history. It went out of business a few times at one point for like several decades. However, in the 80s, it was purchased and spruced up, aka like redecorated, and it was converted into condos. Now, growing up in the 90s, I remember going to the Manor's restaurant once or twice with my family, and the place was glamorous and fancy as fuck. Well, 20 years later, the glamour was gone. And it was pretty much this dark, dingy, empty place. Well, despite being the middle of June, the weather was super cold and rainy all weekend, which pretty much just ruined all of my father-in-law's plans for that weekend. And with the restaurant closed, we probably only saw around like 3 or 4 other people the entire time that we were there. And that's including staff. So, you know, we go somewhere else, we find dinner, and then we get back to the condo. And my father-in-law tells us that the condo was way too crowded with family, I'm guessing, because there were only 4 people there. So he booked us a different room for the night on the opposite side of the manor. So we were like, okay, we were happy with the additional privacy that we were gonna get. So, you know, we go to this room, it's super nice, super pretty, which we were surprised considering how spooky the rest of the place was. But as we're settling in, we find a guest book in the room, and the entries are very odd, to say the least. And a guest book is pretty much just where people put like their names and addresses and like shit, like, I don't know, their thoughts about the hotel, I think. Anyway, so we're reading through this, and there are pages and pages and pages of people, previous guests, mentioning strange noises coming from a locked closet at night that's in the corner of the room. And the most recent entry was from like 2 weeks ago, which was even more delightful. And I quote, "There are noises coming from the closet all night," and the door was locked. So I decided that I was going to put a chair underneath the doorknob. Beautiful room though, and wonderful stay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, what the fuck? What the fuck? Anyway, so my husband and I are super fucking weirded out, but we're thinking, okay, how bad could this be? All the previous guests lived to tell the tale, so it couldn't have been too bad, right? Yeah, couldn't have been that bad. So half joking, half concerned, we decided to follow the rest of the team and put a chair underneath the doorknob of the closet. So I take a picture of the last entry and the blocked door to post onto social media with a caption that says, LOL, if you don't hear from us ever again, the ghost got us. And then we go to bed. But then 10 minutes later, the noises begin. There was an occasional metal clinking and the sound of air ventilation, which kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and then would die down all of a sudden. And my husband and I were not so much as scared, but more confused and weirded out. So we start to laugh out of confusion. We're like, huh, what the fuck? What the fuck? But then the noises start again, and they get louder this time. And then the closet begins to shake, literally shake. And then the noises start again. So now we're starting to get a little bit concerned, okay? So my husband and I were whispering to each other about how we're so glad that we blocked the door because of these weird ass fucking noises. And then again, the noises start. However, this time I am fully panicking. When the noises start again, my husband hops out of bed, calmly turns the lights on, and he walks over to the hotel room door where the emergency exit map is located. And the locked closet shares a wall with the elevator shaft. And then, you know, we kind of just figure out that it's the elevator moving from floor to floor that's making these fucking noises. So I feel relieved. He feels relieved because now we have a reason to believe that there is nothing supernatural going on in this fucking room. So, you know, we go back to sleep, ignoring the noises that the elevator's making all night. The next morning, we leave a note in the guest book saying very disappointed in the lack of closet ghosts that were mentioned earlier, and although very noisy elevator, beautiful room, wonderful stay. So we have breakfast with the family and then we go home. It's not until a few weeks later, after we told the story a few times, it occurs to me that the manor had been empty. Aside from ourselves and our family, we'd only seen 2 or 3 other guests. So who was riding the elevator all night? That's what the fuck I want to know, because as I mentioned earlier, I'm a find a logical explanation type of person. So I decided to look up the manor and its history, seeing if, you know, there were any weird shit that has happened before, which is where I found the backstory of the manor's construction and troubled finances. It's also how I found multiple sources claiming the manor was built on former Native American burial grounds, and that some of the workermen may have allowed some of the skeletal remains to be grounded up into the building's foundation. I don't know how true that part is. Frankly, it sounds a little bit too cliche, but looking at the map of the area, the manor does in fact border both a Native American burial ground and an old cemetery. What the fuck? Okay, everybody, that is the end of storytime number 3. Now on to storytime number 4. Storytime about Rosa. So a little background information. In 2016, I worked in a dermatologist's office with a girl who we're gonna call Rosa. Rosa was in her early mid-20s, and she was also a single mother to a 7-year-old girl who we're gonna call Anna. Rosa was fairly new to this area. She moved into a 2-bedroom house that wasn't in the best area, and she was renting for an extremely low price. And we literally lived in one of the most expensive cities in the fucking world. So this was very odd. So one day Rosa comes into work and she's looking more tired than usual, and we get to talking in the break room, and she said that she's worried for her daughter Anna because she's starting to do strange things. She refuses to sleep in her own bed. She rips all of her clothes off of the hangers, just flinging them in all the hangers across the room. And every evening that Rosa comes home from work, she finds these clothes fucking spilled out everywhere, and Anna's response is, "It wasn't me." Of course. Now, I would like to put out here, I've met Rosa's daughter before on a couple of occasions. She was super calm, super polite, and quiet little girl. Very mature for her age as well. And this behavior was super unexpected to be coming from her because she was also super well behaved. Like I said, very responsible for her age. So Rosa being concerned was completely justified. Well, a week or so later, I'm talking to Rosa about the situation again, and some of the other co-workers are there as well, when Rosa tells us that Anna started sleeping in the bed with her because she was having night terrors. And she started talking about a white man lurking around the hallways of their house. By the way, Rosa and Anna are Afro/Latino heritage. I don't know if that's how you say it, but that's what she put in the story. So if that isn't right, I apologize. Anyway, so Rosa is also experiencing some weird shit, like finding the lights, the TV, or the computer on when she knows that she turned them off, the door to the fridge being left open, faucets running, etc. At this point, my other co-workers are telling her that she needs to get a priest in that house ASAP, and she needs to burn some sage in there. Cause bitch, that shit should not be happening in your fucking house. But Rosa was very persistent on there being nothing supernatural going on in that house. And you know, she was talking about how Anna's probably just having trouble at her new school. So then a month goes by and Rosa, she's looking for a new place to move into, which I'm kind of shocked because I'm like, girl, didn't you just move? So I asked her what was going on and she tells me this story. She's like, so I got a call from Anna's teacher and the school therapist the other day, and they tell me that I need to come in and talk to them because they're concerned about Anna. So I go to the school and they say that Anna said she was scared of me because I woke up in the middle of the night and I was talking in my sleep, but I wasn't talking in my normal voice. I was talking in the voice of an older man. So I try to explain to them that she's had some issues in our new house, but we agreed that we were gonna get her into counseling. So then I get home and I'm talking to our neighbor and I'm telling him about Anna's situation. And that's when the neighbor tells me that back in the 90s, there was a murder/unaliving of themselves in that house. And ever since then, the landlord has had the most trouble keeping the house rented for long periods of time. He said that there was a gay couple who used to live there, 2 white guys, and the one guy unalived his boyfriend and then hung himself in the closet of the small bedroom. So Rosa goes on to say, after hearing that, I got a bunch of our stuff out of the house and now we're staying with some friends on their couch because I won't go back there ever again and I do not want Anna there. The landlord thankfully was kind enough to let Rosa out of her lease early with no penalties, but I guess at this point the landlord was used to doing this. Now this happened in California, but I was never able to find any news articles or anything about the murder/unaliving of themselves. Okay, everybody, that is the end of today's story times. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, maybe hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want to send in your anonymous story time or you want to know how to send in your anonymous story time, make sure to click the links down below in the description. But other than that, I will see you guys Saturday with a new story time.